Welcome to the Cosmic Path. I'm Anthony. Thanks for joining me. In this short video, I want to share with you how you can move into ease and flow and into sync with the energy of our cosmos and our solar system rather than be pushing and forcing all of the time. So imagine you're on a river and the current is flowing downstream and you're in a little kayak and you're paddling with the current. You can move quickly, you don't have to use too much energy, and you're in the flow. Now imagine you turn around and you try and head back upstream, up the river. You've got this heavy current pushing you and you're pushing yourself against this current to try and move back upstream. Chances are it's going to take a lot longer and you're going to use a lot more energy. And this is how the lunar cycle works, because when we're in flow with the lunar cycle, which is the natural organic flow of energy in our solar system, we're going downstream, we're with the flow. However, when we're out of sync with the lunar cycle, which is how we've come to live our lives in this modern era, we're pushing upstream constantly. And this is why so often it feels like we're in force. It feels like we're always having to make things happen. And we get quite a shock when something just drops into place or happens synchronistically. Well, it shouldn't be like that. We're actually meant to live in a state of flow and in a state of synchronicity. And it's only because we've been flipped out of that state of flow and pushed into this paradigm where we're constantly pushing ourselves upstream that we don't experience this flow. In another video, I'm going to go into the reasoning behind why the current system that we use for keeping time, the months and the years, is fundamentally flawed and by design is keeping us trapped in this system where we're just constantly pushing against the flow. And what we need to do to move into sync with the cosmos, into sync with the solar system, so that we can move into ease and flow and be paddling downstream all the time. So by getting in touch with the lunar cycle, this is what we can create. And we can do this individually in our own lives, regardless of the way the world is functioning, the system around us. So I want to start with the new moon. And this is when you just start to see the moon appear in the sky as a sliver. And this is a great time for starting new projects or embarking on creating new habits or anything that's new that you want to embark on in your life. And I use the analogy of a new product in a business. So I would always look to launch a new product during the beginning of the new moon. And this is like going to the garden and planting the seeds and watering them. So we want to launch new products or new projects. We want to start new things, new adventures in the phase of the new moon. Then we get to the end of the new moon phase and we move into the first quarter. So we're still in the waxing phase of the moon because we haven't reached the full moon yet. However, if you imagine the garden, we're starting to see the seedlings come up above the soil. And it's like if you've got a new product that you've just launched at the beginning of the new moon, maybe this is when you're starting to get some feedback from people. This is when maybe you're starting to get some sales or you're getting some questions coming back, and you can start to see a little bit of a result from the work that you've been doing. This is also a really great time, particularly in business, if you have started a new project or you've launched a new product, to make any tweaks or reevaluations that need to be made. Maybe things aren't quite going the way you'd hoped. Well, this is the time now to do those changes and those tweaks because you've still got some time up your sleeve before we get to the full moon. And so in this phase now, from the first quarter moon to the full moon, we're really starting to gather some momentum. And by the time we get to the full moon, this is where things are really starting to come out on show and become visible. If we go back to the product and the business again, this is where maybe your product is starting to get shipped. It's going out to people. People are seeing it. They're handling it. Or maybe you're at an exhibition and maybe you're promoting yourself and you're promoting your products and you're really getting out there. So this is when you're more on show, and you're essentially a little bit more vulnerable because you're out there for the world to see. The full moon is also a really great time to go inward. And I know that sounds almost a little bit paradoxical, but when we have the full moon, yes, it's a great outward time. It's a great time to be on show and to be external, but it's great to be internal as well, because we have this light upon things that we don't normally see. So if you imagine going within during a time like this, little areas within you, maybe different habits or parts of yourself that you can't normally see or tune into, with the light of the full moon shining, we begin to see things that maybe we couldn't see before. So while this is the time to be really putting yourself out there, it's also a great time to be going within and seeing what else is available. And after the full moon, we then begin to move into what we call the waning phase of the moon. So we're heading back towards the new moon. And between the full moon and the third quarter, this is really where we start to see the rewards of the work that we've been doing. So this is where, in the business analogy again, you would start to see the money come in. You'd be starting to tick off all of the boxes. You'd be looking at your sales figures. You'd be seeing, okay, this worked, that didn't work. Beginning to make assessments. If it's in the garden, it's when we're picking the lettuce and starting to eat it. This is also a really good time to move into a state of gratitude for what you have experienced in that first 2 to 3 weeks of the lunar cycle, because when we move into a state of gratitude, we're beginning to sow seeds in advance for the next new moon. Then at the third quarter of the moon, before we go to the new moon again, we're moving into the dark phase of the moon. And this is a really wonderful time for beginning to go really deep within. It's a time where you can start to clear and detoxify yourself of physical things, of emotional things. It's a good time to let go of thoughts. It's a great time to be working on belief systems and making changes towards those things. Because when we get back to the new moon, we want to be ready to be able to embark on creating those new habits or new projects or whatever else it is that we want to start afresh. And so meditation, exercise, walking, connecting in with people who are important to you. It's a great time for good conversation and just really beginning to create a space around yourself where you can relax and re-energize and get yourself ready for the beginning of the lunar cycle again with the new moon. And this phase continues to repeat in layers throughout the year, through the new moon right all the way back to the end of the lunar cycle. And so the more you can step into alignment with this cycle, the more you will step into a place of flow. And when you're in flow, you're paddling downstream. Things happen more quickly. Things happen with more ease. You have more energy. You're more able to create those things that you wish to create. Whereas if you're paddling upstream, if you're constantly having to push and work hard and really just push for everything, then it's a lot more draining and it doesn't happen as easily. You lose that synchronistic flow in your life. And so, in my opinion, a very simple thing anybody can do to make a fundamentally huge change to their life is to start to move into sync with the lunar cycle, to start to plan their month around the lunar cycle. Plan your meetings around the lunar cycle. If you're meeting up with new people, if you're creating new relationships, it's a great time to do it in the new moon, or go out to meet new people during a new moon phase. You know, little things like this, you will find that things will happen with so much more ease and flow, and you might be surprised as to, oh, wow, isn't that a coincidence? It happens this way. I hope you enjoyed this video. Send me a message if you've got any questions about it. And if you need any information on the lunar cycles, you can find it online if you just search lunar phase cycles, or send me a message below and I'll send you a link. I hope you've enjoyed this video. Have an awesome day. Thank you for watching. All the best.